to the Athletes in Motion podcast, From Race to Recovery, with your hosts, Tom Riegel and Kenny Bailey.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Kenny. How are you?
I am fantastic. The reason why is we have Dr. Abby Daunis on the phone. I said it right. Yay.
All right.
Welcome, she's a PT, owner and founder of Peak Tempo. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, Abby, you were telling us right before we went on that you specialize in running, triathlon, sort of sports injuries and kind of stuff like that. Do you want to give us a little background on what that means?
Yeah, I enjoy and specialize in treating runners and triathletes, mostly because I've been a distance runner and a triathlete for the past 15 years now. And so I love the sports. I know a lot about them. And those are the patients that I love to treat. I love to talk shop when we're, in a treatment session. I right now have a mobile PT business. So I go to people's homes or offices or gyms to meet them in the Nashville or Brentwood or Franklin area.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a race that you're currently getting ready for this year for yourself, or is it just you live vicariously through everybody else?
Oh, no. Yeah. I just did the Nashville Women's Triathlon on Sunday.
How'd you do?
I did great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I got fourth in my age group, so not
Look at you.
bad. Yeah. And that was my first postpartum race. I have a 7-month-old, so that was exciting.
Nice.
And then I'm going to do Music City in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Also.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sprint or Olympic distance?
Sprint for now.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for showing up. The reason why we have you on the show is we have a series that Tom and I are doing called The Triathlete's Journey. And we're following 3 athletes that have never done a triathlon before or haven't done the distance that they have. We have Sarah, who actually just did the women's over the weekend. She's going to be also doing the same race you're doing in Nashville. For our sprint distance, we have a half Ironman, and then we have our full Ironman person, Elizabeth, who's getting geared up for Ironman California in October. As we start talking to these folks, we're finding that as the volume goes up, there is now, I think Elizabeth is dealing with a knee issue from overtraining. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about just across the board, what is overtraining? I know it's kind of obvious in the name, but what does that really mean? And what should people look out for? Those kind of things. So why don't we start at the beginning and just when you hear overuse training injuries, what from your perspective, what does that really mean?
Yeah. So an overuse injury is, like you said, it's pretty much defined in the name. It's an injury to a muscle or tendon or bone that's caused by a repetitive stress syndrome. So, repetitive swimming, cycling, or running, especially if you're new to these sports or if you're ramping up your mileage or time spent doing those things, you're going to be more prone to have an overuse injury. As opposed to, like a traumatic injury would be, say, you have a bike crash and you break your collarbone. So that would be a traumatic injury. Overuse injury more occurs over time from a repetitive stress. So, yeah, I mean, with triathletes and runners, we have all kinds of different kinds. So you let me know which kind.
So what would you see? So how would someone know if they were getting an overuse injury as opposed to something else, right? They didn't crack their knee on something, but all of a sudden they're getting some little pains or what types of pains would show up if you were to have like a leg or a knee let's step back 1 second. What are the types of overuse injuries that triathletes are most common? For triathletes or runners, let's say that, or cyclists.
Sure. So let's start with swimming. Let's just go in race order.
Yeah, really? There you go. Perfect.
Overuse injury in swimming.
Yeah.
People swim that much? Long story.
I'm pretty sure I see an Ironman, bib in the background. So
that was a river swim. I just floated the whole way. It was a tin can could have finished that one. So.
The most common overuse injury with swimming is shoulder pain, I would say. Or I would say that's the most common complaint that I hear, shoulder and neck pain. Shoulder pain is usually caused by impingement syndrome or bursitis. Some people call that swimmer's shoulder. Impingement syndrome and bursitis of the shoulder kind of go together. You usually get them at the same time. So in brief, if you are swimming too flat is usually the problem and you're not rotating enough, your part of your acromion, your shoulder blade bone, will jam up the muscles and tendons that are part of your rotator cuff, and it'll give you shoulder pain. I'm trying to not get too technical here. Sometimes if I use like strange words, you can, be
no, that's perfect.
If we glaze over, then like you'd be like, well, yeah, and that's exactly why we try to get athletes to roll their hips. We call it dip the hips, and then you get the high arm throw, which is better rotation. It's more proper rotation for what your shoulder is supposed to do, as opposed to trying to fight it by pulling it forward on a flat plane, as you were saying.
Exactly. So, and I can talk to people over the phone. Like if I'm doing a telehealth visit, and I'll almost know immediately that they're swimming probably too flat. So it's an easy fix. Now, of course, if your shoulder is really inflamed and you're like way down the path of injury, then there's some PT exercises we can do and some other interventions like dry needling and taping and some manual therapy that will help you overcome that.
Yeah, I think it's crucial for people to understand that these injuries don't happen overnight. Even if the pain starts happening today, it didn't start happening really till like a couple weeks ago, right? So it's not going to go away instantaneously. So you have to actually make some adjustments for it. So when you do start to feel something, you need to address it right away and not go, it's a little twinge, I'll be okay. And 6 weeks later, it's a big twinge, and all of a sudden you're taking time off. So
I don't like this episode so far. You mean you can't just power through the pain? Come on now.
You can.
You can.
And you wind up like me, or you can spend 2 weeks not running because you thought you can power through the pain.
So the neck issue would be from what? Bad posture. When all of these come from bad posture, right? In whatever form it is.
Pretty much, yeah. Like it's usually coming down to a breakdown in form. So if, the neck pain is usually you have some muscle imbalance, so you'll be tight maybe on one upper trap and not the other. Or if you're a unilateral breather, those people tend to have some neck pain. And I, in the past, I've tried to coach people to learn how to bilateral breathe, especially if you're going to do open water swimming. It's always better to know how to be a bilateral breather. And again, some people they do okay with their swim form in the beginning of the workout, but if you're going to swim 4,000 yards or 4,000 meters, you're going to have probably a breakdown in your form by the end of that workout. So you really got to stop and check your form a lot just to make sure, like, am I breathing properly? Am I turning my head as much as I should? Or again, if you're swimming too flat and then you try to really just turn your head, that can give you some neck pain. So,
Okay. Now we get on to the bike. Then it gets crazy.
I know. Yeah. So, those are the two biggies for swimming. For cycling, I mean, man, you could have pain anywhere.
So let's do a shout out and say you need to get a bike fit and be properly fit on your bike. It would help tremendously. Once again, it's form, right? We're looking back at form.
Yeah. So, common complaints for cyclists. A big one is numbness and tingling in my hands and wrist pain. Okay. That's always, especially for new cyclists too. If you're, obviously if you're a triathlete and your seat's up too high and you're in a really aggressive position and you've got a lot of pressure on your hands and your wrists and you're not used to that, you're probably going to get some numbness and tingling in those hands. This is why strength is so important. And of course, bike fit. So if your bike's not fitting properly, you might have too much downward pressure. We might need to lower that bike seat. Tom, you know so much about this, of course.
Always lower the bike seat. That's the answer to everything.
Lower the bike seat. Take some pressure off your hands. Yeah. I mean, sometimes triathletes don't run into this too much if they're riding an arrow position because, you can kind of just rest on your forearms. But also core strength will help. Okay. Because, a pro cyclist has a really strong core. Like they could basically ride with fingertips, right, to control their bike. They're not really holding on too tight unless they're going to aggressively attack and climb up a hill. But yeah, core strength is super important there. But of course, bike fit. And a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about can be fixed with bike fit and then, of course, proper training. So.
Yeah, to put it in perspective too, I was just doing some math. I mean, if you're doing your standard like 90 RPM rotation on a bike in 1 hour, you rotated 5,400 times.
Wow.
So if you talk about an overuse injury and you're not in quite your fit, your knees kind of popping out a little, or your cleats aren't on right, you're basically repeating yourself 5,400 times in that hour to just exacerbate. I mean, that's just, you're just literally grinding that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming knees are the other things, or is it hip flexors? Is it that kind of just anywhere the connection point is?
Yeah. Knee pain is a big one. Back pain. I made a list of all the things. And I mean, cycling, I could just go through the whole body, honestly, but knee pain, back pain, neck pain, hip flexors. This happens to a lot of new triathletes that get a tri bike, or if they get into aero position, they tell me their hips are really jammed up. It's because now you're folded, your body's folded down even further. So especially for men, I find that they have a hard time adjusting to that position because they're a little less flexible in the hips. So you'll see sometimes if now you guys, when you go ride, if you look at cyclists in front of you and their knees are flaring out, they probably need some mobility work to get those hips, working to get their knees in. Okay. That's usually kind of tight hips. Go ahead.
Yeah. I have to ask you because I was on a racing team with my PT back in California, and I hated it when he rode behind me. Do you, because of your profession, if you go on a group ride, does it just like your brain just internally freak out when you see people like they got a knee out, or their bike placement's wrong? I mean, Tom, you asked the same question. It's like, oh my God, how are you actually functioning? Does that go through your head, and does it take everything in you not to like, hey, you may want to consider, because you don't want to be that person.
Here's my
right?
card.
I mean, exactly.
Right.
You're going to need me in 6 weeks.
Do you see that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's inevitable. I watch people walk all the time, and I'm like, I'll just watch them walk down the street and I'll try to figure out what's wrong with them. I'm like, it's either their hip or their knee. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of fun, in my head. I'm like, oh, I wonder if they have tight hips or if they're having knee pain or back pain. So I do that for everything. I can't help it. Especially with runners. I mean, I'm really watching them and I'm like, oh boy, I have to try hard to keep my mouth shut. So.
Yeah. Well, it seems like swimming, for example, is, it's technically one of the most difficult ones, but it's on a plane. And cycling, you're kind of in one area. Running, for some reason, is such a wide open field, right? Because you've got foot placement, you got what you've done as a child, any previous injuries, those kind of things. It seems like you're locked onto pedals, right? So you're going to be doing this. So it's relatively, but running, it's a whole world, right? Is that what you kind of see when you see runners like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, running. So all three of these disciplines are so complex, right? Like we've got a lot of things that have to happen like in unison for them to really work and for us to not have pain when we do them. Yeah. But running, is so dynamic, and everyone's going to run a little bit differently. So it's not always like, oh, we have to get someone to like this perfect ideal form that I have in my head. I have to kind of see where they're at. And exactly like you said, Kenny, like what is their background, running background? How long have they been running? Were they a sprinter in high school? Or is this their first time ever running, Yeah. So, but yeah, you can be all over the place. Running, just like cycling, you can have lots of overuse injuries. And
So one of the things, like, and the knee is particularly funky for me when it comes to to give you an example. I was cycling a ton. I thought for sure I was tearing my knee up. Ended up being my IT band. Or if you have a runner's knee, it almost may present itself as a torn meniscus. And then, I had a little pop on my knee and ended up being a torn meniscus when I didn't think it was anything. Right. So let's just talk about the knee, for example, like runner's knee, or let's focus on runner's knee. How does it present itself, and at what point, what should you do sort of in the interim to kind of, rest it and all that sort of stuff? And then at what point should you start seeking a professional?
Good question. So this will be a little bit different for everyone, but if you feel pain when you're running, let's say you're, running 5 miles, and you start to have pain in the middle of your run, you have to kind of decide, like, how bad is it? Do I need to stop? Is it debilitating, or can I keep going? Okay. Yeah. So I usually tell people, if it's less than a 3 out of 10, you can probably keep going. Okay. On the pain scale, 10 is take me to the ER, 0 is no pain. Okay. And then if your knee's still bothering you after your run, you probably need to address it. Okay. That's your body saying, I did something funky, so start putting ice on it and stretching and rolling your legs, all the things that that you should do after most runs anyway.
Everybody does. Yeah.
Yeah. Rolling, stretching. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Don't hide away.
What's a roller? What is that?
Don't make me go walk downstairs and get mine. But yeah, so when so I usually tell people, okay, kind of assess it after your run. Is the pain sticking around now to other activities, going up and down stairs, walking around? If so, take a few days off of running. Okay. Maybe take 2 days off and then try again. All right. And then if that pain's coming back, usually the worse the overuse injury, the sooner in your workout it will appear. Okay. Like if you've got really bad plantar fasciitis and you go to run, it's going to start talking to you first few steps, and then it'll just get worse and worse and worse. All right. Yeah. That's when you really need to shut it down and either cross train or call a PT and say, hey, I need some help. Can you look at this? And then we can kind of guide you in the next best steps. So,
when do you want them to see you? I guess, is it at the pain threshold? Like you said, is it, it's a 4, it's a 5, or it prevented me from running. Yeah, I've rested. It doesn't seem to be going away. That's when they call you. Is that when you want to see them?
The sooner, the better. Like, really.
Yeah. So before it gets to a point of acute pain, you want to address it, right? Yeah. So if you're getting some little spots that pop up in your run or something like that, you need to start addressing it at that point.
Yeah.
If it starts to, certainly if it's shooting pain, you need to jump on it right away. I think plantar fasciitis, if you step out of bed and you can't walk, then you're probably way past when you should have dealt with it.
You should have.
And you shouldn't get to that point. So I think that's the key takeaway for everybody, is that pay attention to what your body's kind of telling you, but then you have to avoid the overreaction side of it. Is like, oh my God, that hurts.
Yeah.
What is that? Oh my God. What, and I know some people that will do that where it's just kind of like, well, that doesn't feel right. It was like, well, there was a little twinge that popped up because whatever, you shifted your weight a little bit, but it's no big deal. So you keep running and yeah, it's fine. And it's nothing that's happening. But if you do get some twinges, some things that start to happen up mid-run, then I think that's what your cue to say, hey, maybe call you, or maybe call a professional to say, hey, I'm starting to have some issues. What can I do to address that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, the short answer is the sooner the better. I mean, if you start to feel it. So, as you increase mileage, let's say like today I'm going for my first ever 10-mile run, you might feel some changes in mile 9 and 10 and be like, oh gosh, my knee got a little twingy. You can wait a day and see if that got better. But if you go on your next run and your knee is hurting, then time to call me. So, or someone to say like, hey, what's going on? Can you check this out? Do I need, can you guide me in what to do?
Yeah. I think if you're over 50, you're at a 3 out of 10 every day.
Constantly.
That's just being,
you wake up. How are you feeling? 3?
You get about a 3. Yeah. If it gets to a 5, then I start to wake up. It's sort of like, if you're in California, if it's a 5.0 earthquake, then you start to take notice. Everything below that, whatever. It's just, that's every day. They call that Tuesday.
So there's a Advil, good or not? I mean, do you recommend like trying to do and kind of reduce the swelling kind of stuff? Do people over rely on that kind of thing? Do they over medicate? Does the like icy hot work? Do those kind of things, are those effective?
So if you have to pop like Aleve or Advil before you go run, then you need to get medical attention. You need to see a PT to try to figure out what you're writing this down. When people have an overuse injury or if they have acute pain, I always tell them, so step one is pain control. Okay. When they come to me, I'm like, let's get the pain under control. So take the NSAIDs, the Advil, you leave the over-the-counter stuff if you can. Okay. If it doesn't interact with any other medication you're on. Ice, the topical anti-inflammatories, Icy Hot or Tiger Balm or any of that stuff, the Voltaren cream, I tell them to do all of that because, again, step one, control pain and inflammation. Then step two, we'll start doing some exercises to see how can we strengthen what needs to be strengthened, how can we stretch what needs to be stretched, and things like that. But you don't want to like start your run or ride on.
Okay. So if I pop 3 Advil, sprayed Icy Hot on my leg, and then go for a run, that's probably hiding the pain, is what you're trying to say?
Exactly.
So cortisone shots probably out of the question too. So anyway,
and if you get there and you need it, you need it. But we'll try some conservative PT treatment.
So let's talk about some kind of preventive stuff. So this is, we kind of, we did the oops. So you got the proper bike fit. You feel like your run form is kind of on point, but you are ramping. And to Tom's point, people like us, we're in our 50s. So, things just tighten up. What do you recommend for folks to try to help sort of reduce that? I know we talked a little bit about sort of probably rolling and exercise and stuff, but specifically what would you tell people, like if you're doing a seminar and say, hey, to prevent overuse injuries, here's the top 3 things you should be doing.
Totally. Well, there's plenty of things you can do. And I just want to add real quick, or maybe we can go back to this, but for running, the most common overuse injuries I see are going to be leg things. Okay. Leg and foot injuries. So Achilles tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, calf strains. Okay. And sometimes shin splints. I haven't seen shin splints in a while, which is interesting, but those are really the most common.
What causes shin splints? Because that used to be like an everyday occurrence for a lot of people.
Yeah. Old shoes and really like heel striking pretty hard, too much impact too fast.
Okay.
And because ground reaction forces go straight up the heel and right through the tibia, that bone you can feel like on the front of your lower leg, your shin. So shin splints are really medial tibial stress syndrome. So you'll have little like micro tears in the muscle and the tendon and the bone on the inside of that tibia.
Okay.
And it's usually almost always old shoes and poor running form or just, too much heel striking.
So do you find it with the running surface as well? Because we've always talked about sidewalks and cement being much harder. I've always felt that was more hard on my legs than running on just asphalt, which seems like there's probably not much of a difference. But for some reason, it seems like I have less leg fatigue on asphalt surfaces as opposed to concrete sidewalks. And then I just would prefer to jump onto trails because it's so much softer.
No, that's all in your head, Tom. No, I'm just
awesome. Probably.
No. I mean, totally. So I, as a PT that treats really active adults, I try to always keep you active. Okay. So if you have pain running on sidewalk and really hard concrete, I'm going to say, you can try some running in the grass, all right? Because we're going to keep your cardio up. We're probably trying to get to race day here. So what can we do to keep you moving forward without like furthering this injury? Okay. So sometimes I let people try running on grass. That can present its own problems sometimes. So gotta be careful with what we do there. Usually I'll kind of tell people hop on the elliptical and do a running motion. That's the closest we can get to running, or aqua jog,
Aqua jog, sure.
We can running, without impact. So, but I mean, it's, if you feel better on asphalt or like grass, do it, and as long as you're not getting any other tweaks or twinges or weird knee pain or hip pain, that's great. Yeah. That's what I tell people to do. So
cool.
Yeah.
So that's part of the prevention is, look at the surface that you're looking at. Cause I think, concrete just beats the crap out of everybody. I mean, it's the hardest surface out there. So
absolutely.
It's rough.
It's
not like Ironman Arizona is entirely on concrete or anything, but It's entirely on concrete.
It's 98%.
Yeah, it is. It's all
concrete.
sidewalk. It's ridiculously stupid. So
It hurts.
anyway,
It just
yeah,
hurts.
a lot.
That's
So
great.
rolling, stretching before you get running, those kind of things.
Yes. Okay. We'll go back to prevention now.
Yes.
I just had to fit in, you know.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
My
It tells us about your personality, your OCD. Like, we didn't finish that third one. I like that.
like on my list right here.
Well, you got a list. I mean, I did.
And we can always, you know, if you have more questions, we can come back. So prevention, we'll do this in 3 parts again. So swimming, check your form, have someone watch your form. Okay. Have a coach like video your swim technique, and then you get to go back and watch it, and you guys talk about it and say, okay, how can I improve my freestyle form? Okay. Or I don't know, if you want a breaststroke, you know, your Ironman, how can I improve my breaststroke?
Want to see that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Want to see that.
Yeah. Backstroke.
Backstroke, all of that.
All of the
good.
above. You know, you need to take a break, roll over, and then go back for it. With cycling, have a really good professional bike fit. That will help to prevent a lot of aches and pains. Before you buy a bike, make sure the frame's going to fit you. That's huge. I mean, I think a lot of newbies make that mistake. They're like, oh, I like this bike, I'm just going to get it. And then all of a sudden they spent all this money and the frame isn't right. You know, of course, there's some parts that you can change and adjust, but not the top tube, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, and with running, make sure you have good shoes. Okay. I tell my runners to replace their shoes every 6 months or at least every year, depending on their mileage. And, you know, also for all of these things, to cover all 3, you should do some strength training to really prep for any endurance race. So there's research that shows even 2 days a week of lifting weights has benefit. So if you can fit that in just a little bit, you know, and I guide people on this all the time. A huge part of my job is like, okay, triathlete, you know how to swim, bike, and run. Here's some exercises I'm going to give you to do that are going to, you know, improve your strength. And obviously, like, I give them therapeutic exercise to help address their injury and their weaknesses. So strength training is huge, bike fit, form, running form, have someone, you know, I love to film people running and help them adjust their form. That can help prevent injury too. Usually I'm doing that after people are having pain. So we kind of have to scale back and then learn how to run in a better way. Like you said, Kenny, stretching and foam rolling after you exercise is always really helpful. That can help prevent injury. And there was another one that was in the forefront of my mind that just disappeared, but
not on the list.
It's not on the list.
So you brought up an interesting question. By the way, it's interesting as a person on the other side, right? Because, you know, you're a coach, you're a PT. I'm just a dude trying to get stuff done, right? But what's interesting is you think you're self-aware of how good or not good you're doing, right? And like, I know Tom's like, you know, you're crossing over the plane on your swim. I'm like, no, I'm not. He's like, no, you are. I said, no, my hand's out. And then he shows me the film. I'm like, because it doesn't feel like I'm doing that. Or running, you know, you look at your run form, you're like, oh my God, I look like a bear trying to chase a rabbit. You know, I'm just, you know, not this nice, you know, that kind of thing. So I think the self-awareness sometimes is having somebody film you is always really good. For some reason, you brought up this weird question that's in my head because I see a lot of like videos and professionals about having different types of running shoes. Like, oh, if you're going to be doing track running, you should do these. Or if I use these shoes if I do distance running, those kind of things. I've got an incredibly sensitive calf for some reason. I just overload my calf every year. It's kind of a problem. So, you know, it's Hoka or Hoka or Hoka for me. For normal people that don't have calf issues, is using like a different running shoe. I hear it's helpful. I hear it's not helpful. That, you know, a lighter shoe for a faster race is kind of cool, but I use a more, you know, bigger shoe if I'm doing distance. Is that something is that a myth, or is that true? Can normal humans actually use different shoes? Is that a thing?
They can, yes.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. So again, there are so many recommendations on shoes out there. I would say sometimes I do recommend that people have different shoes and they kind of change them up during the week. So But again, like you just said, Kenny, for you, Hokas are the only ones that work. So stick with
Stick
what
with the
works.
Hokas, yeah.
Don't change it if it ain't broke,
Yeah.
So, but I had a friend who she would run her long runs, in Brooks, and then that was on the weekends, and then maybe during the week, the shorter runs she was running in, we'll say like Mizuno or Asics, and that worked for her. So, I'd say if you can do it, or just even if you have two different pairs of one brand shoe, your shoes will just last longer. They won't wear out. You'll see a lot of recommendations from like specific running coaches. They'll say, wear this shoe for your shorter runs and your tempo workouts, and this shoe for your longer runs. So, but again, that's on a patient by patient basis. It really, you got to look at the whole picture. How new are they to running? What's their budget like? Can they afford to have multiple pairs of shoes? So.
I think that's huge, because that's part of the frustration of running is experimenting with shoes to find the ones that work. And then the next year they come out with new, improved, or the same model that worked for you for the last 4 years that now all of a sudden feels funky and doesn't work. And you're dropping $150+ per set of shoes. It's super frustrating. And I'm one that goes through multiple shoes. I have 3 or 4 different shoe types for different runs that I like to mix, from Saucony to Hoka, and then Ultras, and then my trail shoes are a different animal altogether. But I end up dropping, $600-700 when I buy my shoes. And then, they last longer, but I'm still dropping, several $100s all at once just to have shoes. And once the mileage kicks up, then I'm having to get another set, because, you can blow through the mileage on some of these shoes so quickly. It's just not even, it's not even funny. I mean, it's just terrible. So I think you have to look at that. You have to look at what's your budget and how much experimentation are you willing to do, and hit and miss. Like, there's a couple pairs of shoes I got, and I was like, these are not going to work at all. I can't return them. I can't do anything to them. So maybe I wear them to do the lawn or, yard work or something, but that's, $150. I mean, that's crazy.
Right. Yeah. So some stores, like I know Fleet Feet will let you, buy, I'm pretty sure. Gosh,
I think it's like a 30-day thing, right?
Yeah. So you can like,
do they let you run in them?
Running them.
Because
sounds bizarre.
Some brands where you can return them, but they can't be used. So it's like basically you can wear them around the house, and if you can't decide, then you own them, right? You're completely. I know REI has a very generous return policy, and then they turn around and try to sell them used later on. But I see some stuff that's pretty worn out.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Funny.
I mean, there's,
and you can replace.
We won't talk about other stores that I've been to that said the second it goes off of this carpet, it's yours, and you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
right, exactly. So you got to find a good running store where you can go run and then return them if needed. So
and support your local running store, please.
Absolutely.
Right. So.
And they usually have some really good people in there that can help you figure out the right shoe.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the stores have technology that, look at your foot, scan your foot, see what it is, and they can at least point you in the right direction to try some shoes. I like the ones that have have like a treadmill there that you can actually run on the treadmill while you're there. I used to pop into one store locally for me, and I would go in and I would give them 3 or 4 pairs that I want. They'd pull them out for me. I'd just leave me alone because I know what I'm doing. I'd put them on, get on the treadmill, go, nope.
Absolutely.
Nope. Yeah. Nope. Okay. These are the ones. I'll take these. Yeah. Okay. Give me 4 pair. I'll take them. Right.
There you go. So, back to the overuse thing. I'm sorry I kind of diverged on that, but I was just so jealous of people who buy shoes. As a person that deals with I deal with overuse injury, and I hate it that I have to do that. The hard part by far and away is, okay, so I got to figure out the mechanics of my form's not right. Right. Okay. So that's corrective. I got to rest it because, I screwed up. The toughest part and probably the biggest art form is trying to figure out what that timeline is between, okay, I've given enough rest and now I can go back. That to me has been probably the biggest frustration because my calf I got the tendinosis in my calf. I'm trying to rest it. It feels fine today. It feels great. I've been doing strength exercises. I've been trying to keep it stretched and limber. it's that, okay. And back to Tom's point, is it a 3 because I'm starting to exacerbate it again? Or is it a 3 because, it's been a while since I've been on it? That to me has by far been the most frustrating thing, because it feels like a 3, and then you don't want to get so far out on your run, it turns into a 7, and then you're limping back to the car. So that to me is the struggle. How do you get people to start? What's that process for you, or how do you recommend that people to kind of go? There's no hard number, right? It's not 2 weeks and you're good. It's this weird sort of feathering. How does that look? I'm sorry, you can sell frustration in my voice too, but just how do I get this? How do I get back? Right.
Right. I know. No, it's hard. So I'll never forget, as a PT student, my professor, she said, PT is not black and white. It's very gray. And we all hated that. We were like, well, that's the worst answer. None of us wanted to hear that. A bunch of type A people in PT school. So, and it really is, it's very gray. It, number one, depends on your injury. Okay. So for your calf, for example, I would start asking, when do you feel it? Do you only feel it when you run? Do you feel it when you walk? And then I put you through a bunch of heel raises. Like, can you do double leg, single leg, and things like that? Can you do them with a bent knee, with a straight knee, and kind of tease out what the problem is? But it's hard. It's always a trial and error of when can my athlete go back to running. So usually what I'll do is, get you to a certain point where once my hands are on that tissue and I'm like, okay, Kenny, your calf feels pretty good under my fingers. Let's try some heel raises. Okay, those feel good. Good. Let's try some jumping. Can you handle that? Great. Okay, now go run 5 minutes. And then you might come back and say, I didn't like that. And I'll say, okay, we got to shut it down again, but it is hard. And that is probably like one of the hardest parts of treating runners.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah. And again, it just depends on your injury and the person. I have a lot of people who, again, I try to keep everyone moving, right? So if you're like, my calf hurts when I run, then I'm going to say, go aqua jog or get on the elliptical for however amount of time you're supposed to be running. You're going to do that now. Okay. Sometimes this is what I say, depending on how close we are to race day, because I'm trying to keep their cardio up in a non-painful way. Okay. And that's the closest things that I can mimic running to without having them pound outside. But again, it's helpful to have someone watch you run, and maybe I can say, Kenny, it's your hip that's making your calf hurt, Now, when you have a calf injury, or let's say Achilles tendonitis or something like that, usually that spot is weak. Okay. So this is also the fine little line we have to walk, is we have to start strengthening that tissue that is hurting. That is very hard. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's frustrating. And, because again, we have to say, all right, calf, are you ready for strength? Let's try it. And then slowly ramp it up. Okay. Until we can get it strong and that tissue can say, I'm good. I can handle all of this running for 26.2 miles. Let's go for it. Okay.
Yeah, because I think, and I talked this on a previous one, and I don't say this like Ironman is heartless, but Ironman doesn't care, right? It's the day is the date, right? Yeah. October is going to come, right? My race is in July. They're not going to move it for me because I'm not feeling good, right? And so as you get closer to that window, dare I say there's a desperation to get back, right? How do you manage expectations with your patients? Because that's a like, this isn't like, oh, I want to go run a marathon someday. It's like, I have a date. I have to do these 3 disciplines. Whether I'm limping or not limping, either way, I'm going to finish it. It's whether I finish ugly or I finish strong. How do you manage that sort of, I guess, frustration or expectations to want to hurry up? And it's like, hey, I got to ramp. I got to, I've got a half I got to do. I mean, if I'm only doing 4 miles, how do you talk to your patients about sort of trying to be realistic, but at the same time, trying to be helpful?
Good question. So
thank you. This is really just therapy for me. We all know that, right? All of these podcasts is my therapy.
That's why we do the podcast.
So. You know what? It's y'all's podcast. You can do whatever you want. So.
Exactly.
Do it. So I always look at how many weeks do we have? Okay. So let's start with, how many weeks till race day? And then I see, all right, Kenny, how far can you run right now? Like how many miles without pain? Okay. And then I start looking at, is this realistic? Or do we have to change to a walk run? Or are we gonna walk the whole thing? But I have to have this conversation with the patient. Like, what do you want? Because you're in control. So do you want to defer if you can't run an 8-minute mile for that whole half marathon, or do you want to do it at all? Okay. Some of them yes, some of them no. Okay. So some people are like, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay, let's look for a different race then. And then we kind of like set our sights on something further out or next year, hopefully just months away, not next year. So, and then some of them are okay with wiggling, like, no, I just want to walk run, or I'll walk the second half. I don't really care. I'll walk the second half of the half marathon. So it depends on our timeline, the patient's personality, like what are they going for here? A lot of first timers are like, I just want to finish, so I don't really care. I'm like, okay, well, and then I have to be realistic with them too. This is probably the hardest part of my job, when I have to tell someone like, I do not recommend that you do this because you'll probably further injure yourself. I hate giving people bad news. It's terrible. So, but it's just being really open and honest with them. I always try to push it as much as I can to get them to race day. If that's what they want, I'm like, if you want to get there, I'm going to do everything I can to get you there. Okay. So
but I think that's what I like about what you just said, though. There's stuff you don't like. There's shades of gray, right? Which is, okay, you may not be doing a PR on your run, but what if we do a 3-2? We're going to run for 3, walk for 2, because that seems like what you can do. That seems to be your ability. Are you okay with that? Right. You just set those expectations. Like, okay, because I knew last year, for example, my calf was so bad that I, whatever the run's going to be, I'm probably going to walk half of it, which I did. Right. But the good news is, I'm doing it in a nature preserve, and I'm staring at deer, and it was a beautiful 82-degree sunny day in Oregon. I mean, it's hard to be mad, when you're looking around going, let's just reset expectations. Right. So I finished ugly, but I finished. But I think setting that expectation, to your point, and making sure, saying, look, it's going to be like this. Are you okay with that?
Right.
The other thing that some athletes do, and I'm not going to name names, well, like, I don't really care if it's a 9. I'm just going to blow it up and then worry about it after the race is over. Like, okay, it's going to hurt like hell, but I don't got to race until, after it's for a while. So, I mean, do you run across people like that with that personality? It's like, don't care, going to blow it up, and then, we'll deal with the fallout later.
We'll fix it in post.
Fix it in post, right?
Absolutely. There's plenty of Ironmen that are like that.
How do you handle that? Do you try to get them logic, or is it just like?
I mean, I just tell them what I know, here's what may happen if you go and run this hard.
Yeah.
Okay. You might have to wait 6 months to run again. I don't know until you come back to me after race day, and then it's like, all right, let's see what happened. So,
And then you're like writing your thing like, well, that'll be 4 months worth of. I've got a client for the next 4 months because he's like, yay, yay, guaranteed income right there.
No, but
it's really tough, right? Because as a racer, you're spending a lot of money for these Ironmans, right? I booked a trip to Oregon, and it's just like, it's ridiculously expensive between getting my bike there, getting myself there, rental cars, all that sort of stuff. And then, it doesn't come around until next year. So postponing it feels almost like a no-op, right? So then it becomes,
or they cancel the race, decide not to host it there anymore, right? They give up the license and disappear, right? Like anyone who wanted to do Alaska, man, and got excited. They had the first year, and then they decided never to do it again. So how many races are they doing that with, right? So it's like, is it going to be around next year? Who knows that? I think you being able to give the athlete concrete advice on, here's what's happening, right? Here are your options. You can make a solid choice, and then helping them work through the emotional side of it, of that desire to want to do it, right? Just know the consequences. If you do it at this level, this is what's probably going to happen to you, and it's going to be devastating, right? If you do it at this level, it's going to be slightly less devastating, but you can get it done. Or my recommendation would be, you know what? is it really worth it? You have family, you have friends, you have a job, you have everything else. What's the most important thing for you? I think trying to get through those decisions and that thought process in a quick amount of time, for them to make that decision is just like, that's the toughest part I can imagine. And you're giving them, the best advice you can, the best knowledge to make that decision. Some people can't make good decisions. They just make poor decisions.
And you're too close to the sun, right? You're Icarus on this one, right? Because you're in the middle of the whole thing. So we're going to try to put a nice bow tie on this thing rather than talking about, terrible things like that. So it seems like there's a theme, right? Some people are going to experience some level of overuse injury, or there's going to be some tweak going on because of that. You can't train for 7-8 months perfectly clean. If you can, bless you.
Right.
It sounds like to kind of recap it, if you see something that's greater than a 3, if you see something that's persistent, stop, take a pause, go either see if it goes away. If it doesn't, go seek some help, either through a PT who can then figure out whether or not you need to look at form issues or strengthening issues or other issues. But if you sort of ignore it, it doesn't get better. Is that a safe thing to say?
Yes, almost always. If you ignore it, it doesn't usually just disappear. Yeah. And I will add, this was my other thought that came back to me from earlier. People, when they're training for an endurance event, they go too hard, too fast. Mm-hmm. That will injure you. So if you do not have, a pretty clear-cut training plan, and that's going to vary depending on your, athletic ability and how many years you've been doing this, but you need to slowly ramp up your mileage in any event, swimming, cycling, or running. That is really how you prevent injury. You have to get your muscles, your tendons, your bones, your whole body adapted to what you're asking of it. So slow ramping up.
Yes.
But yes, and like we said earlier, the sooner the better to seek out like medical help. Okay. I will always advocate for PT first because I'm a firm believer in physical therapy. So, and in the state of Tennessee, a lot of people don't know this. You don't need a doctor's referral to go to a PT. You can just go first. And then what we have to do is we do have to communicate with your physician and say, here's what we're doing. And then they sign off on it. They say, cool, go ahead. And so you can have a referral if you go to your doctor and then you come see us. Great, that's fine. But you don't have to. And usually we're a little bit faster to get a hold of than to get in to see them. So.
Yeah. So along those lines, and we appreciate you coming on the show. You're a fantastic PT. Yeah. If as people are hunting for a PT, what are those things they should be looking for?
Finding a physical therapist is just like finding like a talk therapist or a psychotherapist. It has to be a good fit. So, I try to encourage runners and triathletes to call me because I know about their sport and what they're doing. But you have to, let's be realistic here, okay? Like we're all busy humans. So it has to be convenient for you. Is it close to you, or can I come to you? Can I meet you at your house or gym or office? Are they easy to get to? Do they have availability? And do you jive with them? You can. So usually you have to try it once. And then if you're like, oh, they just weren't a good fit for me, then you can break up, move on. It's okay.
But I mean, to your point, try to look for PTs that are working with other athletes similar to what you're doing. If they do geriatric, that's great. I mean, PTs are needed for that, but they may not be the best for you because you're dealing with a unique kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah.
You need somebody that's more empathetic, that these races aren't just like, oh, it's a race, who cares? And like, no. I surround my family around this. I surround my schedule around this. Like everything's surrounded by this. This isn't just a race. It's it's a lifestyle, right? So
I've always said if you walk into a doctor's office, PT or chiro or whatever, and you tell them you have this issue in a race coming up, and they immediately say, well, you can't do the race, then you walk out and you find somebody else, right?
You walk the other way.
Yeah, you walk the other way because that's somebody who doesn't do the races or isn't that active, isn't a sports specific. Right. That's what the specialty is, that you can walk in there and they go, okay, and they start asking questions and go, okay, if they look at how we can get you through your event, then you've got somebody that's probably worth sticking around with and working with, because they're going to work with you. They understand your mental state of what you're trying to accomplish. And they will, maybe the ultimate thing will be, no, you shouldn't do the race, but at least they're willing to examine and explore and walk through all the issues with you. So
yes, exactly.
And it sounds like half your job is, it's basically therapy, mental therapy, right? It's and so you want, anybody that deals with athletes like me, but you want, to your point, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt, right? There's a FUD factor that's going on. Like, can I get back to this, and can I do this? And if you go to somebody that you don't feel like is addressing that FUD factor as well, that idea of, this is an important thing to me. This is not something, it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do that. It's like, no. Right. I mean, I was lucky enough to get a surgeon on that was working on my meniscus tear. The first thing he said to me, walked in, it was like, when's your next race? Not, hi, how you doing? Or whatever else. It's like, when's your next race?
That's
I'm like, October. It's like, all right, let's see if we can get you there. Right. That's the kind of thing. Because you're going to trust that person more if they say, look, you may want to push this off, because if you just have somebody that immediately just and they want to push it off, it's like, what do you know? Like, you don't understand that. So trying to find PTs that have that viewpoint like yours, right? That understanding, that empathy, to make sure that it's more than just, can they physically do the right thing? It's also, do they understand sort of the importance level of what you're trying to do, and how that may be, vital to you, right? It's kind of what keeps you moving, right?
Absolutely.
That's important.
I mean, there's a few good points here. So I keep racing, A, because I love it, and B, because it also, like, I'm like, yes, I'm out here with you. Like, I love the triathlon and endurance sport community. And so I'm totally immersed in it. Like, I'm still racing. I'm still helping you guys race too.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, where's my brain going? I had so many good thoughts from what you guys both just said. Also, I've been a PT for 10 years, and what I've learned is you have to listen to your patient. And I just start and say, how can I help you? Like, what do you want? And, and then they tell me, like, Kenny, you might say, I want to finish this race. I got to get to my Ironman, and I want to run without calf pain. And I'm like, all right, let's see. I'm going to do everything I can to get you there. And then if I don't think it's safe for you, I'm going to tell you that too. Ultimately, the patient has the power. I only give recommendations. Okay. And you guys decide what to do with that information. It's the same as a doctor, believe it or not. Oh, I'm married to one. Physicians are not gods. Okay. They're just
and they don't put the toilet seat down. What? I'm just saying.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, all medical professionals, we just give recommendations, and then you decide what to do with that information. Okay. So,
I think that's important for people to remember, that you are the customer is always, the customer is number one, right? So, and I think a lot of people get, what's the word? Kind of in awe of a doctor when you sit in and the doctor says to do blah, blah, blah. And they just, the doctor said, so I have to do it. It was just kind of like, no, you can, question the doctor in a nice way. I'm not tell the doctor stupid, I'm out of here, right? Whatever. But you have the ability to say, hey, can you explain that to me? Let me make the proper decision. And I need all the information from it. And to have a doctor that's going to work with you, whether it's a surgeon to PT, to anything in between. It's just like, what are the questions you need to ask? How do you kind of get through this thing? You are in control of your destiny. You can make a decision to continue on with the race and do damage to yourself. You have the ability and the right to do that. Not always recommended.
Right.
Rarely recommended. But just to know that you can question what the doctor's saying, and you probably should. You should probably get to somebody that, and if they can't explain it to you, again, maybe that's a small red flag. If they can't explain why you should do this or what's going to happen, maybe they don't have a full understanding of your particular issue, which is perfectly fine. Every doctor can't know everything. So it's impossible.
Sad.
So
there you go.
I had a patient call me the other day, and they said, my doctor's recommending that I have this back surgery. And I said, well, let's talk about it. And, he sent me the exact name of the surgery, and I went and read about it. And I said, here's what I know, and here's what I can tell you. And when I've treated patients that have had a similar surgery, here's what it looked like,
Yeah.
And so, but I said, it's your choice. Like, you can decide. And we kind of talked about how debilitating is this, like how much is this impacting my life? But yes, again, to that point, you're always in control. It's good to talk to different people. He talked to me, a PT, who obviously I don't do surgery, but I told him what the other side of surgery looks like, the rehab part.
The rehab side. Yeah.
Yeah. So he decided, I'm going to wait a few months and then see how I'm doing. Great. And I'm like, I'm here to help you along the way. So,
Cool.
it's a complex thing for sure. So
there you go. Well, Abby, thank you very much for taking your time today. This has been a very enlightening conversation. I think it's a needed one too. For that. So
yeah, for sure. As everybody's ramping up and getting through, Abby, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for send us your questions and comments. We like kind of building our community. You can find us on their YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook. We have that up now going. We're starting to build up, some awareness of the Facebook to get some conversation in the community. So send us questions, all of that. And as usual, give us some ratings, 5 stars, thumbs up, all of that good stuff. That helps the algorithms find us and bumps us up a little bit. More people get to hear the great content that we're putting out. So we appreciate all of that. Thank you so much. And until the next time, we'll catch you then.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. It was so fun to be here. I love the triathlon world and helping people get to race day and get out of pain. So this was a great time.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.